So I have to take Toby Dog to the groomer today. I figured while I'm waiting for him, I would answer some of your most pressing questions. And so I went out on Instagram and YouTube and asked you guys for your most uncomfortable questions, and I got hundreds of responses. And while there will be no possible way for me to answer every single question, I tried to pick out the most uncomfortable ones and give you guys some answers. Hey, Toby Dog, I need you to come with me. Let's go, buddy. In you go, pal. Into the truck. Let's go, kid. Come on. All right. You're gonna be stubborn. Off you go, mister. He never likes going to the groomer.
If there was a bonfire and all your dogs and cats were trapped in the barn and you could only save one, which one would you save?
Oh, wow. That's starting off with a doozy right out of the gate. If I could only save one of my animals, which animal would I save? I mean, I've always said of all the animals on our farm, there's definitely tiers. Like, even though I love them, the poultry's kind of at the bottom, the cattle are kind of at the middle, and then the guard dogs and the barn cats are essentially at the top. They are equal parts working animals as well as family members. But when I say that, I'm always neglecting to rank who are my favorite animals amongst all of them. And I gotta admit, this is a really hard question. Only one question in and I'm officially uncomfortable with trying to give a straight answer. I mean, is it fair for me to just even say that I just go into the barn with the dogs and the cats and we all hold hands and go out like Thelma and Louise? I don't know, that's probably a cop-out, so I will give you a real answer. It's really tough. I think about how devastated I was when little barn cat almost died. I think about how devastated I was when I learned that Pablo was really sick. But I don't know, I'm not a cat person, so there is that as well. So maybe it's none of the barn cats and it's between Toby and Abby. Oh man. This is such an unfair question. Because I couldn't even see letting little barn cat or little baby Ginny burn, or Pablo or Molly. I mean, Molly might be my favorite barn cat. Please note I'm saying might, but of all the animals, I probably spend the most time with Lil Barn Cat. And so there is a closeness there that I don't even think you guys see that much on camera. But if I could only save one, and if I can only save one, yeah, I'm pretty sure that Toby's the one who gets rescued from the fire, but I'm not confident on that answer. I don't know.
Hey, how often do you wash Toby and Abby?
Well, thankfully, this second question is much, much easier to answer. As far as grooming goes for our livestock guardian dogs, for both Toby and Abby, I take them to the groomer twice a year. Usually I have a fall visit and a spring visit. Like you saw earlier in this video, Toby's going for his fall grooming. Tomorrow morning, I'll bring Abby back to Nakia and she'll get her fall grooming. And then probably somewhere in mid-May, they'll both go back again. But that said, I actually brush their coats very regularly too, which I think is an important part of their health and maintenance and grooming. Toby gets brushed probably about 5 or 6 times a week. Abby, I usually only brush once a week because she just doesn't need it. I don't know if you guys have noticed this, but Toby Dog's coat is much, much thicker than Abby Dog's coat. Both coats keep them pretty well insulated in the winter, and they both have like a double layer coat. It's just Toby's is so much thicker. It's like a sheep's wool. And so that's why I brush him more frequently. Abby just doesn't need it. She's got such a nice slick coat. It just doesn't have quite the same risk as Toby Dog's for getting matted.
Have you ever let Abby go loose and secretly watch her to see how she does? And if you've done it, like, how did that go?
Yeah, I'm always trying to observe Abby as much as possible, both when she knows I'm observing her as well as sometimes when she doesn't. And really, for the most part, her behavior has become phenomenal. She is super, super obedient. She's very chill overall. And for the most part, she's good to just kind of wander around the farm or just sit in like a spot and just relax and nap, kind of like Toby does. But every so often, she sometimes just gets a little bit mischievous and playful, particularly with the chickens. But given that we don't even have the chickens out much right now, that hasn't even been much of a problem. And so I'm leaving Abby out pretty much all the time when I'm outside. So for example, I could be like working on a project over near the cattle yard, not even be in the bird yard, and I'll leave Abby out. I just want to make sure I can have earshot to hear if I hear any commotion or anything and have to go back and check on her or reprimand her or make sure she's not getting into trouble. But these days she's spending more and more of her time just outside wandering around the farm on her own. And as soon as all the birds go inside, which I keep stalling on because the weather's just been so tremendous here in northern Vermont this fall. But as soon as those birds go inside, Abby's gonna be outside free-ranging full time. I actually feel pretty confident in doing that. I'm not confident in her having full-time access to the birds unsupervised, but her having full-time access to the farm unsupervised, if the birds are protected, I feel really good about now. To get to this point has taken a ton of work, but I'm really satisfied with where I'm ending up.
When things weren't going well with Abby, did you ever consider rehoming her or selling her?
Ugh. We're now getting back to the uncomfortable and challenging questions. Let me think, how am I gonna answer this one? You know, particularly back in the spring when things were really not going well with Abby and I hadn't started working with the trainer and I was kind of distraught and I wasn't quite sure what to do. As I was weighing my options, that idea always popped up as a possibility, but I never really seriously considered it all that much. And the reason is, I think, probably twofold. One, I can be extremely hard-headed and stubborn, and if I wanna make something work, I'm gonna do everything I possibly can to make that happen, even if it's not necessarily the best possible thing to do. But then number two, when I brought Abby to the farm, I felt like I really had made a commitment to her, that she had become my responsibility, and ensuring that she had the right tools she needed to be a successful farm dog at our farm was my responsibility, and that commitment I made to her, I took super seriously. And so I was really of the mindset that I needed to do everything I possibly would take to do it. And so that meant doing a lot of research, that meant exploring alternative training techniques that I at the time thought would be awful, and that meant swallowing my pride and sharing with all of you guys just how things weren't working out and what was going on and what I thought might be the problem. And so I was completely prepared and committed to do all of those things. You know, exploring the idea of shipping Abby off to somewhere else or getting rid of her, I don't know, it was just never something I seriously considered. And so I guess I would say no to that question.
Do you still plan on breeding Maremas? Are you gonna add like another dog that could breed with Abby? Or are you gonna like put Toby out to stud? Like, what are you gonna do there?
I would like to someday ultimately breed Maremas, I still think. And that's in spite of all of the breeding drama that we've had on our farm over the last couple of months. I really do believe in the dog breed of the Maremma. I absolutely feel a passion for raising animals and good animal husbandry. And I also believe that Toby dog has some outstanding genetics that deserve to be shared and spread and passed along, both for my farm as well as other farms. But as of right now, I have no immediate plans. I think if the right opportunity for Toby to breed with another dog arose, I would definitely be up for it. I'm still in the process of working with Toby's breeder and the Maremma Association to get him registered, but it's turned into both an administrative and political nightmare. But the facts are the facts, and his lineage is his lineage, and so I'm not too concerned about that ultimately happening. But also, as of right now, I have no plans of bringing a new female dog to the farm anytime soon. I still believe that my #1 priority remains that Abby needs to become a full-fledged livestock guardian dog on our farm before I try to take on other projects. That includes something like adding a female Maremma for breeding purposes, as well as other dog ideas, like maybe adding a herding dog. All of those things take a back seat until I ultimately get Abby to a good place. I would feel irresponsible if I approached it any other way.
Hey, with so many birds gone to processing, do Toby or Abby get concerned about all their missing friends?
I don't know, that's an interesting question. They don't seem to be bothered the next day, but the day of slaughtering, Toby always seems very much on edge. I think it's because he can hear the distress from the birds on another part of the farm. You know, when we do the processing, I really try to take some great efforts to make sure that everything's happening fairly far away from the bird yard. So the butchering's happening up by the house. I usually have taken all the birds that I plan to slaughter and bring them also up to the front yard. And so from Toby's vantage point, he can't really see anything, but he can hear stuff. But any weirdness of the day seems to get washed away when I show up with whatever scraps I have to feed the dogs that night. Because slaughter day night is always the best possible day ever to be a dog. You get the bestest, tastiest victuals possible, and you can eat as much as you want. And so both Toby dog and Abby like that part. And then when the next day rolls around, they're kind of totally back to normal. Everything's back to normal. They have full bellies, and the farm goes on. So I would say they notice a little bit, but it's not that big a deal.
Do you have hemorrhoids?
Well, I guess that is kind of an uncomfortable question. But the answer is no. No, I don't have hemorrhoids. I would attribute a good diet full of fiber as probably my best weapon against something like that. I don't know, I don't really want to get gross here. You know, this question actually reminds me of a quote from the comedian Bob Schimmel, who used to ask,
And why are hemorrhoids called hemorrhoids and asteroids called asteroids?
shouldn't it be the other way around? But I guess if it was switched around, a proctologist would be an astronaut.
I'm gonna ask a second question, okay? How do you plan to address the fact that most of your viewers don't seem to know the difference between a working farm and an animal rescue?
All right, so now that's a much tougher question to answer. So many people I know watch our videos and fall in love with the animals and really appreciate how we show life oftentimes from the animal perspective in our videos. But at the same time, a lot of those animals are gonna go off to the processor at some point. I think this most notably hit home when it came to the video about Kurt Cobain. And even though from day one when he first showed up on our farm and I had been saying, hey, he's a steer and next year he's gonna go to the butcher, people were very upset about that video, and I understand why. That's not gonna make me manage my farm any differently, but I do have empathy and I do understand why. I'm not sure if there's a lot that I could or would do any differently with that situation. I think maybe the one thing I could do is consistently remind people more frequently that our farm is not an animal sanctuary. And many of the animals that we raise on our farm will get processed for meat at some point. And that's really not to say all of the animals, because, you know, we've got egg-laying animals that we keep. We've got cows that are for breeding purposes. As you guys saw me struggle on the burning barn question at the beginning, obviously the barn cats and guard dogs are a big part of our farm, and there's no plan to ever eat them. But when I look at animals like Jimi Hendrix or Joey Ramone, yeah, those guys are gonna ultimately go to the processor probably around this time next year. I think the other challenge that exists, and I know this is a problem that I've created, is because I name my animals, it creates an impression for other folks so that they're not gonna get harvested. I do it because I think it's important for me as the farmer to be reminded that even though these are meat animals, they are very much living creatures and they do very much deserve to be treated with love and respect. But I know that not everybody thinks that way, and so my apologies if that hurts for some folks. But I do need to run my farm the way that I need to run my farm.
Do you plan on eating the Parks and Recreation crew?
Well, with the Parks and Recreation crew, you know, I did a big goose cull and we processed 41 geese earlier this fall. And while Ron Swanson, as well as 3 of the 4 geese remain, there was one of the geese in the Parks and Recreation crew. She was a female pilgrim goose. We ended up culling her because of genetic reasons. You see, I've had this issue over the last couple of years where every year I have a couple of goslings that end up developing angel wing. It's where like their wing is a little bit too heavy for their body and it like droops down. It's not a good trait, and I'm pretty certain it's not diet based and it's genetic based, because, you know, I'll be raising up say 40 or 50 goslings, and out of those goslings, 2 or 3 of them have this one problem, and they're all getting the same diet, they're all getting the same food, like everything's the same. The one difference is the genetics. And so when I did my hatchings this year, I was very careful to watch to see where that angel wing gene would pop up, and I'm pretty sure I traced it to this one goose who was part of the Parks and Recreation crew. And so yes, she ended up being culled, and yes, she is in our freezer as we speak.
How does Kurt Cobain taste?
So with all due respect, absolutely delicious. Yeah, the other week we got the beef back from the slaughterhouse and we stockpiled our freezer. I've been selling a lot of it, but we've also been eating a lot of it. Steaks, ground beef, roasts, all of it has been absolutely delicious. And even though I know the name of my meat and which animal it came from, I have absolutely no hesitation or reservations about eating it, and it tastes wonderful. And I actually find that I appreciate it more than just say beef that I got from a local farm. In the very near future, I'm actually gonna be putting some of the meat up on our website and you can buy it. I don't think I want to ship it just because the logistics of shipping frozen meat are kind of a nightmare, but you can come to the farm and buy it and maybe even get a little mini tour, so stay tuned for that one.
What do you plan to do when social media isn't all that profitable? Can you possibly pivot to full-time farming?
You know, that's a really interesting question. I think one of the biggest things I've learned when it comes to running the farm and getting things going is that having a diversified set of revenue streams is arguably one of the most important principles you need to embrace. And so for our farm specifically, you know, we generate money from selling beef, from goose meat, from duck meat, from fertilized eggs, from eating eggs, from trees. We're branching out more and more to specialty projects like feathers and dog treats and soap. But when I finally close the books on 2022, the bulk of our earnings are gonna come from social media. And that's not just like money coming in from AdSense from YouTube. That includes money coming in from Facebook and Instagram and TikTok and sponsorships and merchandise sales. Like all of those things help generate money that ultimately is how I live and pay the bills and all that good stuff. Now, if one or all of those social media income streams dried up, yeah, I would definitely lean probably more towards farming. In particular, what I'm finding is the value-added products, the things like soap and the dog treats and that sort of thing continue to be the best bang for my buck. Like I will do a video later this year where I tab out like all of my farm operation numbers and show you how much we earn from farming, kind of like I did last year. And quite honestly, at this point, with nearly my first full year of farming full time under my belt, I've made enough money where I could scrape by just off of that farm money. And as I say that, it might be just a little bit premature to make that declaration because I still haven't fully tabbed out all my numbers, but I'm feeling like I'm getting kind of close to it. So yeah, if an income stream like that dried up, I would just keep focusing on the farm. I mean, that's been my long-term goal to begin with, so yeah, I would continue to embrace it.
Do you regret having popular social media, both in the notoriety as well as the way it hinders you from being just a regular working farm?
I don't regret it at all. I mean, I think that without our social media presence, our farm would not have grown the way it has. I would not be able to farm full time like I do now. So many of the connections and relationships I've made have been incredible and they've come through this platform. I will also fully admit that I love the act of making videos. It's just something that brings me joy and I find to be a lot of fun. So I have no regrets whatsoever. I mean, there's certain elements of it that I don't like, but I feel like all of that stuff's just part of the deal and I can't just take the good and exclude the bad. I gotta take the whole enchilada.
Why do you always seem to express your grievances and personal issues in video format versus just talking to somebody directly?
Yeah, this is another one of those uncomfortable questions, and whoever wrote this question has me nailed to a T. I find I'm a very introverted person and I have a lot of trouble expressing my feelings directly to somebody, like in a one-on-one setting. There's something about that intimacy of sharing your feelings with another person that I personally really struggle with. You know, ever since I was a little kid, I've been very focused on what goes on inside my own head. And that will often happen at the detriment of the feelings of others. But the weird thing is, when I make videos like this, usually I'm making these videos and I'm by myself, or I'm by myself with my animals, and there are no other humans around. I mean, even as I'm shooting this video, right, I'm at a public park and there's like not a soul in sight because we're on a weekday morning on a gray kind of day. And when I'm in these settings and I'm alone, I actually find it's very easy to express myself and how I feel about things. And then through the magic of editing, I can kind of shape and sculpt my thoughts in a way where I feel like it's truly expressing how I feel. And so that's why you're often gonna see me speak my mind and express a point of view in those sort of video essays I'll often put together and post up here. I'm not saying that that's right. I'm just saying that that's how I work and what works best for me. Through the miracle of therapy, I've found that I have become a little bit better at expressing myself directly with folks. You know, in particular, my friends and family and my wife, like, those are the folks I really work on trying to do that with. People I have less of a direct connection with and only maybe a mere association, I'm probably still gonna use a video as my ultimate means of communication because I believe that words matter and I wanna make sure when I'm communicating, I'm using those right words and I really am speaking how I feel. I'm not saying that that's good, I'm just saying that that's how I am. Wow. This video is becoming very uncomfortable.
Does Allison ever help you with the chores?
Yeah, Allison will often help me with things around the farm. I think we have the chores kind of divided a little bit between ourselves. Like, you know, when it comes to household chores, I do most of the cooking, she does more of the cleaning. She's usually handling the day-to-day bill type stuff, but I'm handling kind of the bigger picture financial and money things. As far as chores around the farm go, Allison really owns the garden and I will help her sometimes with projects, but it's kind of like at her direction and she's the boss of that one. When it comes to the farm animals and that sort of stuff, that's really my domain and I do it most of the time myself. Like if I'm in a pinch, I can ask her to help like lock the birds up or feed the dogs or the cats or something like that. But that's definitely much more of my domain.
Have you or Allison ever disagreed on the direction of the farm? If so, how do you settle that?
Oh yeah, we disagree on stuff related to the farm all the time. But what we try to do is talk it out and hash it out and find a way where we can reach a compromise that works for both of us. For me, that's a huge part of what marriage is all about, is trying to balance your life with a partner and like find a way to make it work for both of you. And so if there was something I really wanted to do with the farm and Allison wasn't on board and she was like, nope, heck no, but then I wouldn't do it unless she was feeling good with the idea. And so not to get into like the gory details, but yeah, there's definitely lots of examples where we disagreed on where to go and we worked really hard as a couple to find a place of compromise for what we ultimately ended up doing.
Do you think your YouTube channel would be more successful if your wife Allison ran it?
For this one, 100% no way. It would not be the YouTube channel it is if Allison ran it. While Allison has many gifts and talents, being on camera, making videos, telling stories, those just aren't where her talents lie. And I know if she was here with me answering these questions, she would also 100% agree.
What would happen to the farm if you got divorced?
Well, that's a very uncomfortable question, but since this is a video filled with uncomfortable questions, let me try to do my best to answer it. I guess if we were to get divorced, I would do everything I could to try to save the farm and not lose the farm. And I don't think Allison would probably want to stay on the farm if we got divorced. I mean, that's a guess. I don't know. I should ask her. God, I don't even want to ask her. That would bum the heck out of me. But yeah, I would probably do everything I could to try to find a way to keep the farm. But yeah, I really don't want to even think about that.
What's the worst smelling animal on the farm? What's the worst thing you've ever smelled on the farm? Have you ever had to vomit because it smelled so bad on the farm?
Well, that person is remarkably fascinated with smells. But I guess to answer the questions, I would say that the worst smelling animal on our farm, and I'm picking from the universe of farm animals, I think it's probably the ducks. Duck poop has this just disgusting, acrid smell that I really don't like. It's worse than chicken poop, but the worst smell that I've ever smelled on the farm probably is from like things that are dead or decomposing. A couple months ago, I found like a dead and decomposing woodchuck. That was rough. That was gross. That was a very horrid smell. And I guess there have been a couple of times when I've smelled dead or decomposing things around the farm. There was actually a time I found a couple of dead mice. It just makes me want to retch it, but I've never had to puke because of a smell.
What's it like being the most hated man in your surrounding area?
I don't know if that's all that accurate. I feel like I have a lot of folks who are friendly, like me. I go places all the time, and even if I don't know folks, they're like excited to see me and meet me. And so they're super positive. There are definitely folks who really don't like me. Like I think what's happened is actually it's sort of like become kind of polarizing, where it's either people really don't like me or they really do like me. There's very few people who are kind of indifferent, or maybe less people that are indifferent. Yeah, because I definitely don't think I'm winning any popularity contests with hound hunters, that's for sure. And I also know that, you know, given some of my recent comments about kind of the prepper community, I'm sure more prepper-minded folks are not a big fan of mine either. You know I'm not the most disliked person in my local area, because the guy who's the most disliked person in my local area is this guy who was like our county's probate judge. And he got into a whole bunch of legal troubles. I'm not even gonna try to speak on it because I don't wanna get sued, but he got into a whole bunch of trouble and he was barred from practicing for a period of time, which means that because he's our probate judge and he's barred from practicing, he actually can't even serve as our probate judge right now. And that's not even the worst part, because he's now running for re-election. And so I think this video is gonna come out on the 3rd and the election's on the 8th. He's running for election again, which I think is just absolutely appalling. And I actually know a lot of other folks in our area feel that way as well. But the good news is a woman who actually lives in Peacham is a really smart lady and a really good person by the name of Annette Lorraine. She's actually running for probate judge against him, and I really hope that she wins. Because man, that whole situation just really bothers me.
Do you edit your videos all by yourself? Or do you work with an editor?
Yes, I do use an editor. My friend Valerie is awesome. She is super smart and super talented. She helps me make these YouTube videos, and I would be completely lost without her.
Wait, what? Honestly, I would have never been able to move from doing 2 videos a week to 3 videos a week if it wasn't for her help. So yes, thank you, Valerie. You're awesome and you are great.
What's your worst experience of ever meeting a viewer?
Okay, story time. You remember when I made back this summer the video asking you guys not to come visit our farm? Well, there was kind of an inciting incident that happened earlier in the spring where I wasn't even at the farm at the time. I think I'd like gone to the store. I'd run out to do something. I forget why I wasn't there, but Allison was at the farm by herself, and this guy showed up at the farm, just pulled up and got out of his car and started walking around, looking at things and taking pictures. And Allison sees this, like she's actually like sitting in the living room having tea. She sees this, goes outside and is like, "Excuse me, what are you doing?" And then to top it all off, the guy was like super rude to her, saying, oh, he wanted to look around and why was she being so rude? While meanwhile, the guy's just like walking around at her house, like taking pictures. And so that was most definitely the worst fan experience we've had. But honestly, that's like the only one I can really think of though, because for the most part, meeting you guys has been pretty awesome. Like even over the last couple of weeks, we actually had a bunch of folks come visit the farm. These are folks who bought either ducks or geese from us. And they would come to the farm, we'd hang out, you know, I would show them around a little bit, we'd chat a little bit, they'd get their birds. Honestly, like that sort of thing is awesome. Or if I go to like conferences and meet folks, that sort of experience is great and I have so much fun with it. And so while I don't feel like I could do it all the time, having kind of like opportunities and ways to hang out with you guys is something I really enjoy doing because most of you are absolutely amazing people. So there aren't a lot of bad experiences, but there was that one with that one guy.
When you get old and you don't have the physical strength to run your farm, do you plan on selling it and returning back to the city?
I don't see myself ever moving back to the city. I'd really love to live and die in the area that I live in now. I'm not sure if I'd sell the farm. You know, I think one of the things I often think about is, like, do I want to maybe build a cabin somewhere on the farm that like I could live at as an old man with Allison and like we could have like our old people home as part of the farm, and then maybe like have somebody else who's running the farm now because I'm too old take over the big house. I always see this thing with like family farms and like small farms needing to be passed to family members. It's kind of a weird construct because, you know, sometimes a kid's gonna wanna take over their family's place and like that's really important to them. But a lot of times that's not the case. And I almost feel like it's unfair to saddle that kid with this like burden of expectation. And while I'm not a parent, so it's maybe a little hard for me to opine on this one, I think it's better to let the kid do what they wanna do and lead their life the way they wanna lead it and not have that either spoken or unspoken expectation floating out there. You know, so that's why I don't feel like I need to have like an heir who's gonna take over the farm. I mean, you know, let folks live their lives. If there's somebody who wants to be a part of it, maybe there's an opportunity there, but I'm in no rush to try to create that. I mean, heck, I'm only 42.
What do you hope becomes of the farm after you die?
I mean, this is actually a really good part 2 to the previous question. I would hope that it continues to be a farm. I would hope that people continue to raise animals and take care of the land and manage the ecosystem the right way. I'm sure that that's what the people who farmed the land before me hoped for, and I would hope to really just be a link in that chain.
Hey, Abby dog, guess who's back? Excited to see him? Oh, did you miss your Toby dog? Well, guess what, Abby? You're going to the groomer tomorrow.
So yeah, I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. Be sure to watch another one of our videos, and I'll be back again with another one real soon. And if you like this Q&A format, let me know, and maybe I'll make some more.